And in the beginning, it's Ruben. It's always just you, me, and the replay viewers.
Yep.
So while it's just us chickens, tell me about the last UFO interaction you had.
Oh, the last UFO interaction. Okay, so I was at Lisa Royale's annual retreat that she does in Arizona, near Tucson, and this was October. I want to say September, maybe September. It was around the equinox, and her retreats are awesome. I just, I always book in advance, and I'm like, I'm there, and we went. So it's a lot of the same people, and we went there, and I missed apparently the first night. There's a group of them. They got there early, and I was running behind, as I usually am, and they went out to the site just to sort of scout it, because there's a site that we do our CE5 events at. And they went, a handful of people after dinner went out there just to sort of chat and talk. And then apparently, I heard as soon as I got there, everybody's like, "Oh my God, you should have seen it. There was a fleet, and they all showed up for us and all this stuff." And I'm like, "Oh my God, that's crazy. I missed it by a couple hours." And then, so it's like, okay, so then we sort of set the stage for the next night. We did three nights of Under the Stars CE5 work, which is, are you familiar with CE5?
Yeah, we do that at my events, baby, and we're going to do Sedona too.
Great. So yeah, I've been doing it.
Everybody here, give them a quick CE5 breakdown.
Yeah, CE5. It's a term coined by Stephen Greer, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, and it's human initiated contact. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, like in the movie, that's contact where you're by the ETs contacting you, and CE4, I think that is having some sort of I think that's being taken aboard the ships. The CE4 is when you're actually taken, kind of an abduction or temporary detainment kind of situation. And then C5 is human initiated contact, which Greer.
Keep talking.
Oh, okay. Keep talking. Okay, so we've been so Lisa Royale used to be part of Greer's team, CE5 team, back in the 90s when he was just getting going, and she broke away and started doing her own thing. And we talk about a lot of this in the most recent episode I released with her in season 3. So I recommend everybody go check that out and get the full thing, including the video footage which I took of the UFO engagement that we had the next night. We went back under and we did our CE5s, and again the fleet showed up. Apparently everybody that was there the night before said it was nothing, not nothing, but not as intense as the night before. But for me, I caught many craft on camera. I had that's the most craft I've ever seen at one time in the sky. I mean, the whole sky was just lit up with these different flashing. They were flashing on and off really quick, and it was like a complete, say dead sky, or a sky of just stars. And then out of nowhere, while we were in the middle of the meditations, all of a sudden, boom, 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 just the whole sky. Luckily, I was in the back and I had a camera as wide as I could, and I was just getting all of these lights flashing, including some other orb, like orange colored lights is happening as well. And we tracked them across the sky. Everybody was excited. Like, stay in meditation. Don't break the energy. And then we had a couple other bleeps come in throughout the night, and you can see this in that episode. That at the end of the episode, I put it in there. So yeah, it was pretty exciting. It's pretty recent too.
And this is just one reason why we love you here at the Akashic Academy, my friend, because of the really innovative for a lot of still society to be able to bring this into their awareness and to really think, oh, okay. It's innovative to call in extraterrestrials and to have these experiences and to catch them on camera. This is some of the most mystical, magical, exciting work. I know everyone's jaw is dropping out here. You are just a phenomenal person. Yeah, what?
Well, and then I should say, so just right after that that event, I went up to Sedona to do some filming with Bill and the Skull and some other things, some more episode stuff for the show, and we did a C5 with a group there in Sedona, and I actually led that one, and we did so I've incorporated my Wim Hof breathing work in with the C5 because I think it opens the portals. It helps get things going a little bit,
Nice.
gets the mojo going. I find it very powerful for doing in that combination. And so in that night, I didn't see anything per se, but I set the cameras up and I was doing time lapse. And you look back at the time lapse, and again, there's just it was more my back because I was facing this way and I had all the cameras facing this way. So other people had saw things and experienced things, but the time lapse footage I got, there's just it's crazy. All kinds of crazy anomalies are found in. So we definitely had a very active night. I just in person didn't see it, where in the other event, everybody was like, "Oh my God," in person.
Well, what I've come to know about you, my friend, is that's kind of your MO, because as the documentarian of so much mystery and so much of this quantum magic that we're getting to experience right now, when I listen to you in interviews, you often talk about that removal from the experience so that you can tell a story keeps you more neutral, and you don't actually have quite the same experience that everyone else around you has. And again, thank you, because you are obviously a being who has the ability to hold the frequency. I know that you are stepping into your power and your soul mission here on the planet as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, but also as a man of consciousness. You're growing in a way that allows you to facilitate this kind of interaction. Like I feel like your guides are talking to me right now, and they want to give you huge props for the Wim Hof breathing that you added to the CE5, because it shifts the physiology inside of the body in a way that meditation is great, and it does part of it for the thoughts, but the breath actually begins to move the physiology in a way.
That's what I found.
Yeah.
It actually, so I've been teaching Wim Hof up here in Big Bear all last summer. There's a small group that, I started teaching just kind of randomly at special events and things, some gatherings. And then everybody was sort of into it. And I'm like, well, hey, I do it all the time anyway, so why not just come join me by the lake? And so once a week, we get a crew together. And what I noticed with myself when I do it, and I have a couple of spots out in the mountains. I go for hikes, and then I do my breath work. Is energetically, I'm not your typical energy sensitive kind of person, right? Many people are, and I've been learning and sort of coming to know and pay attention to energies and whatnot. And what I've noticed is that the spots that I've been constantly doing the Wim Hof, you walk into the field or that area, literally out in the field or up in the mountains, and I can feel a shift in the energy. Because with the breath work, we're sort of creating portals where we go, right? Yeah. And where we do the spots. So and especially with the group. So we're out by the lake, and the groups that I lead weekly up here in Big Bear. I've just noticed that, and other people in our group too have noticed that the energy is. Do we have to repeat C5 again? Okay.
No. Kelly's here. She's taking notes for us. But by the way, everybody, please show your lack of intelligence in here. Allow this to be a safe space where you can ask whatever question is alive in your field. We may talk about it in the show, but like I say on all of my shows, Akashic Answers with Emily, pose questions, because that's what will allow the answer to drop into your field, and it will. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I've noticed though is that the more we do the C5s, or not the C5s, the breath work, the stronger the field in those spots gets. And because we're moving energy, we're creating portals, and then when you do it consistently in the same spot, you're actually creating in a sense ley lines or vortexes or power spots in you're sort of charging the spot. So if you go to someplace like Sedona or some places that are already charged, and then you add your breath mojo to it, you're actually getting you're magnifying the vortex that's already there. And it sort of what I found is it puts a signal out to the universe to hey, the vortex is open, they're all primed and ready, and then the spaceships can just fly right through. So I've found it's added, and I did at Lisa's retreat too. I sort of offered the breath work, and she said, yeah, go ahead. And a lot of positive feedback there. We did daily. Oh,
it might be popping out. He warned me that this might happen because of his internet, but he'll be back. Oh, what a perfect chance to just, again, show my love for this human. Not only is Ruben... There, you coming back in? I was just taking this pause to give you a proper introduction, my friend. Not only are you living in the adventure of life and standing in your genius, you're an award-winning filmmaker, you're a former Hollywood stuntman. One thing that I found really impressive about you was when I learned that you organized a citizens hearing on disclosure. That one blew my mind. It's next level. Well, because it shows a next level of leadership. And I'm just so proud to call you my friend. We're so happy to have you back here with us at the Akashic Academy. And for everyone who is joining us, gosh, I know you guys love Ruben. Probably a lot of you know him from being on the retreats and getting to meet Ruben in person, or meeting him here at the Academy. He's been on the show many, many times before. I've got so many friends and colleagues, Ruben, that if they haven't met you in person, they've shared with me they've watched every single episode of Interview with Ed, which is, you're in your 3rd season now. Yep. This episode, well, we were kind of here to talk about my episode, but I did ask you about your last UFO interaction, and it's so cool that you have this caught on an episode 2 and all of this footage on your episode with Lisa. So fine, I guess we'll plug Lisa's episode 2 while we're here.
Yes, please.
Yes, and you're this whole series, because again, it's in season 3. The first 2 seasons that were on Gaia were the #1 watched show on Gaia, and it's just such an honor and privilege to have you here, my friend. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Yeah, my honor. Thank you.
You know, a lot of people ask me what happened that was the catalyst or the trigger that caused me to transition from my old career in Hollywood to being so deeply aligned with Woo.
Jimmy asked me that last night, and he's like, "Hey, what made Emily transition to that?" And I was like,
Jimmy asked what made. That's so funny.
Yeah. He asked me, and then I was like recounting the interview, and I was like, "Well, I think it was a number of things, but you know, there was like she was doing readings for her neighbors and and talking to their past transitioned family members, and you know, all this stuff." So I hope I did justice, but you could definitely go back and you know, correct the record if I made any mistakes.
Let me just ground myself in as I received the story of you telling me that you're talking about me with Jimmy Church last night and on the show. That's
a lot, yeah. It was a big part of the show.
Thank you. Another reason why we love Ruben around here. Yeah, you've done a lot for me, for my career personally, Chastity loves you too. Okay, let me ask you this, because I do know you, and I know that you're always moving into the next vision and the next piece, and stopping to really integrate and really to receive is something that, as your friend, I remind you to do often. Ruben, do you realize how many lives you've touched? Think that, like, those 3 seasons,
Yep.
and the people who have seen that, you've empowered the next generation, and not the next generation in terms of chronological age and years, but the next generation of people waking up on the planet.
I hope that's that's one of my hopes, that when I do this stuff, that I want people to be empowered. I want people to take in the information and use it to better themselves, better their lives, and as I have for my own self. So it's a bit selfish in a way, because I through going through these understandings and teachings that I've received from these many interviews, I understand, it's my belief and my understanding that to get to a world where we are sort of this it's, I don't want to say, I guess, a futuristic world, or a world where we all can thrive and we can live connected and happy, and and all of the negative things that we have in our lives are, we can sort of say goodbye to all that stuff. I know it is possible to live in a sort of a utopian life, in a sense. That word it gets a little jumbled, because everybody's got a different idea of what the utopian life is. But from talking to these other beings from other civilizations, you get a glimpse of what that could be, right? And we have a lot of science fiction stories that can show us and all this stuff. And it's my understanding that to get to that reality, we have to, maybe I shouldn't say have to, but it's better if we all are in our own power, in our own sovereign space, and we are empowered and not dependent on. We can be dependent on each other for certain things, but not dependent on any kind of global construct system of governance or any kinds of things like that. So self-empowerment is a big teaching that you teach everybody, basically everybody in my show, and everything that I try to put a microphone on is about self-empowerment. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to see this world. I want to live in and be in a world where, again, we are all thriving, and we are all living without fear, living without expectations, because that also the fear and the expectations go hand in hand, because then if you don't get your expectations, then you have fear, and vice versa.
Well, the choice to tap into peace, love, and joy, which is the 5D, is all around us right now.
It's always been there.
It's always been there. We just need to become a frequency match and learn to hold that.
Exactly. And I feel so with my show, and with the interviews, and yourself included, is there's a toolkit that's being delivered. And I've said this before, I offer the buffet of, channelers and intuitives and experiencers who sort of they each have their own individual secret sauce to how to obtain this sovereign lifestyle, or sovereign way of being. And I just, I like to put my microphones on all of all you guys. So then the individual people watching the show can then choose who they resonate with, and then they can go and do their own work. And eventually, hopefully in my lifetime, we will have a world where where we all are, there is this coherence when it comes
Yeah.
to this idea of sovereignty, and we're no longer in lack mentality or victimhood or any of that stuff.
I'm going to circle back to that problem and talk about it a little bit more later. But you know what's so funny is I was just using, everybody asks me about my story of how I transitioned from Hollywood as a segue because I want to know what your story is. Obviously, empowerment became somewhere along the way, it probably moved from an intuitive part of who you were and how you were expressing. I mean, as a stuntman, it's a very empowering career choice. How did that energy, like what happened in your life that was the catalyst that made that become more conscious and you started becoming this filmmaker, delivering this toolkit, a very important toolkit to humanity?
Well, probably the biggest thing was my, so from a young age, I've been, very passionate about martial arts, and in the martial art, Bruce Lee, a big Bruce Lee fan in high school and growing up, Jackie Chan and sort of Hong Kong cinema. The cinema was what grabbed me, but then there was this aspect of Bruce Lee that showed, this empowered person, right? He didn't, you don't take shit. You're just gonna, kick ass, and if anybody gets in your way, you're gonna kick ass and save the day. And Bruce Lee had a huge influence in his teachings because he was a martial artist and teacher first, and then sort of became this on-screen presence. But a big part of his teachings, which came from a combination of his martial art master, which is Yip Man, and then also, which is a legendary martial artist himself, and there's movies made based on that character, on that person. And then also he studied Lao Tzu, Krishnamurti, a lot of different, Eastern philosophies, and Plato, even Western philosophies as well. So he was a philosopher, and he wrote a lot about that. And that was sort of my first influence on that way of thinking, of using the martial way, which is it's the idea of the warrior and becoming and using strategy, not just strength to beat up the bad guys, but using your mind and your heart to navigate sticky situations. Right?
Ooh, nice.
That's the true warrior is an integrated warrior with all aspects, and that's one of the ideas that Bruce Lee taught. So I grew up with that in that world, and then moved to Japan at the young age of 19 and dove really deep into martial arts and action cinema. And again, there was this martial way that of fighting, but fighting more of not fighting each other, but it's really about fighting your internal spirits, fighting that fighting that voice that says, I can't do this anymore. And just sort of, no, I can, you can't, you don't give up, keep trying, that kind of thing, do it again and again, and repetition. And to a certain extent, a little too much in the martial arts fields, in the old way of Asian martial arts. It's very, do you guys understand the word Spartan when I use that? It's too,
I would take a breakdown and a definition, please, Professor.
Okay. So this idea of like from the movie 300, right? They had the Sparta way, right? They had this this militaristic, like, push until you die, right? You just keep going and you're throwing up, and there was a lot of that in the martial arts worlds where they pushed so hard, especially in Asia. You couldn't do that in America because you get sued, or if you're a teacher, literally in Asia, the old way, and Jackie Chan came out of the Peking opera there, where they would take a stick and the teachers would just beat the kids, right? And then, or they would say, do a push-up or do a kick, 1,000 kicks a day until your legs can't move anymore. And if you don't kick, then you get beat by your teacher. So, that is not really the best way to do things. Now we know through scientific evaluation that, you're actually destroying your cells, and you're not giving your body enough time to recover, and it's counterproductive and all this stuff. But there's a aspect of that. It's, in Asia, they call it the sort of Sparta way, or in the martial arts worlds, this idea of really pushing it really hard.
Well, okay, can I just interject for 1 second?
Yeah.
Because I get it. Jackie says, I'm over here hanging on every word. And Sherry says, where do we find the shows? Sherry, I'll plug that in for you in just a moment here. I'll grab the link. I noticed this in my son, Jack, and know Jack, but he likes to do things that push his body David Goggins style to like the point of just like vomit and complete degradation. Maybe need one more syllable in there. But as his mom, I just cringe so much. And then I also understand that it's almost like there's this aspect of a warrior nature, some part of his DNA that I don't have, or that's not illuminated or not working itself out in me. Or maybe it is, it's just not working through the physical in the same way. So it invites me to say, all right, where am I? Because if I can see the pattern in the field, everybody, guess what? It's somewhere inside of me. And so I just would love to invite everybody, even if you're cringing at the thought of doing 1,000 kick. I mean, I can't even do a Chloe Tang video and keep up with all her fire hydrants before I follow. I cannot even imagine pushing my body like this and then getting beat with a stick. But I can find in myself where this pattern, this Sparta, this energy, this DNA that may not be helping me in every area is illuminated within me. And I invite you guys, if you can see the connection, you can understand that we are constantly doing work on the hologram, meaning when you see something in the field, you find it very small internally within you, and you are actually shifting the hologram. You're doing the work right there in that moment. I just feel the awareness, to bring the awareness of we're doing powerful work in this moment. And there are all kinds of strands of DNA that we get from all places in the universe. I've discovered some within myself recently. That I'm like, oh, that's interesting. We need to learn how to work with some of these aspects of DNA that are not so desirable. It doesn't matter if your storyline tells you that they come from alien DNA, or if your storyline tells you that they're maybe ancestral, genetic. I know the Bible tells us that we pass things 7 generations. Just find some level of connection so that you can do the work right now. Okay, back to
and there's positivity too. So the positive aspects of that is you overcome the physical limitations of the body, in a sense. Your mind is more powerful than the body. And when you push really hard like that, you think you can't go another step, but you do, right? It's the marathon runner. It's the all of the physical sports and different things that we constantly push ourselves to do, mind over matter. That's the positive side. I don't think we need to push it like that anymore these days, because we have more. We can use our mind. We can sit in meditation and get almost as the same effect with the mind body connection and chemical visualization. And there's a lot more techniques now that we have, where back in the day they didn't have these techniques, so they just pushed it really hard until they threw up and that kind of thing. So so when I moved to Japan, that I learned that. I learned how to push through pain, not in a good sense. I learned how to not give up so easy, just to finish what I started, kind of thing.
I did that in 26 hours of natural labor and childbirth with Vivian.
There you go. So yes, every woman has this in their biology.
And I'm completely different after that experience too. I think that we all need experiences like that.
The guys have to do it another way, so we go and do our martial art thing. But anyways, that's that even though it was more of a physical learning these moves and making my body do these things, that I didn't have the background. I didn't grow up with martial arts. I didn't start martial arts until I was 19, till I really moved to Japan. I was a fan of Bruce Lee. I never thought I would ever be able to be a Bruce Lee. And when I started training in Japan, actually a lot of the teachers there were like, "Oh, you're too old to learn martial arts. You can't, your body's already, And I'm like, "No, I can do it." Even at 19, yeah. I remember going to a gymnastics school, and the teachers wouldn't even take me in because they said I was too old to learn gymnastics. And I was like, no, I want to do flips like Jackie Chan. And then I got into action cinema and started working and training with the fight choreographers and folks like on the Power Rangers and these kinds of things out in Japan. And that's, and then I started making progress, and I'm like, wow, I can, maybe if I keep trying this, eventually I'll get there. And after 4 years of training, I thought I was good enough to go and work in Hong Kong. So I hopped on a plane and went and started working in Hong Kong. I met Jackie Chan and did a little bit of work there. And then the things were kind of drying up there. It was right when Jackie and Jet Li and these guys had just gotten success in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. So the Hong Kong film industry was kind of dead at that time, right when I got there. I got a few opportunities, a few roles, but they were mostly looking for bad guys. And at that time I had this young, innocent face, and it was really hard for me to be a bad guy. And so I moved back to the States and became and started working right away on the Power Rangers, on the TV show, the Power Rangers.
I auditioned for the Power Rangers. That's really funny. We never crossed paths in Hollywood.
No, we didn't.
But maybe if I was better in that audition,
if you got cast, I don't think it's about being better at the audition. It's Power Rangers is not, they don't really your acting abilities and things, they don't really judge you too much on that one. It's they're probably, you have to throw a kick or a punch. Do you remember what year was that you auditioned?
No, but I'm feeling like it might have been Yellow Power Ranger. I can't even remember which color it was. And I don't even know if if Yellow was female at this point. I don't remember. Yep. Yellow Power Ranger. There were a lot of those great old shows of my childhood. Saved by the Bell was another one that I just auditioned for. I'm guessing that none of them had stuntmen.
Those shows didn't really have much of a action theme to them, but then I working on Power Rangers, I got to know the Hollywood film industry and Hollywood stunt world. And then I started, because of my skills I had learned in working with Jackie and others in Asia, and that type of specialized action fighting skill was kind of a rarity at that time in Hollywood. So I got called to work on a lot of big shows that had that type of action. And then eventually I got called to work on Avatar.
Did you guys know he's Jake Sully? And he's Jake Sully, and any point of time Jake Sully's running or jumping or flipping, or right?
Pretty much, yeah. Whenever he's doing his stuff. So that was a 4-year journey, and it was really during that show, working on that show, I had there was a lot of downtime with the computers and things going. It was new technology at the time, so the motion capture technology was kind of new, at least what James Cameron was doing with it. And had a lot of downtime. So we were, and YouTube had just come online. So we were, a lot of the staff and I were in the back while waiting for the computers to get fixed or whatever. We'd spend a lot of time watching YouTube videos. And after we watched all the cat videos you could watch, we stumbled.
Cucumbers?
Was that?
Cats with cucumbers?
Everything, every cat video you could probably see at YouTube at that time, we had seen. Then we started venturing into films like The Zeitgeist and Loose Change and Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project, which started giving a different view of, how did the towers fall? There's they're putting fluoride in the water. What are chemtrails? And introducing, what we term conspiracy theories, but what we know now that are not conspiracy theories. All of this stuff, if you look up everything in those movies, has now come true, and we know and have the data and have the everything to back it up beyond any question. I guess there's still people questioning, but I just don't think they've looked at the data enough. But so that was sort of prying my mind open to this idea that UFOs are real, that we're living in some sort of an illusionary world where there's a control group that is sort of manipulating media and everything for the masses. And the masses are pretty much oblivious to this. So
I would think, Ruben, that it's almost impossible to embody that thematic storyline, which is what Avatar was, which is where he worked for 4 years, without having it and being such a sensitive guy. I would be, man, you all were like incredibly activated in the quantum field at that time. And it's interesting. I bet some people spun out a little bit after that, huh? Who worked there?
Yeah, you could say a few people went their different paths, but it was so while we're doing that and simultaneously learning about. So the Na'vi were modeled after the indigenous, all these different indigenous cultures from around the world. So as a proper actor should do his homework, and we were given homework by James Cameron to study and had to do the movements and the things similar to the way indigenous would do, and so had to look into different indigenous cultures and their belief systems and ideas. And I learned about ayahuasca while working on Avatar. James Cameron said there's this medicine in the jungle that they cook, and it comes from the vines, and then they drink it and they have this hallucinatory experience. And there's an actual scene in Avatar that got cut, didn't make it, that is actually experience. So I was one of the Na'vi in the scene, and Jim has explained it to us. So I'm learning that. I'm learning about indigenous cultures. I'm learning about free energy. I'm learning about UFOs and these different conspiracies. And then sure enough, in 2007, while I'm still working on the show, a couple years into it, on my day off, I have a UFO sighting, and it blew my mind. And that's when I really got activated. Like after that experience, I sort of realized that all of this is real. And I started going down the rabbit holes of trying to investigate and find out what I saw and what other people are also experiencing and having similar experiences, but even more in depth. So that started me on this investigation path in 2007. And then in 2010, I actually went to Arizona and did a CE5 event with Stephen Greer. There was about 200 of us under the stars for 3 nights, and all 3 nights there was, we call UFO various different craft and things, experiences. And then that was that was me coming out of the closet. I was like, okay, this is definitely real. We can now talk. I need to talk about this. I cannot. So I was so nervous at the time because I was like, I'm going to post on my blog at a website, and I had at that time, what was it? I don't know. I think we were just getting into Facebook at that time. And, but I sort of put it out there that I see and believe in UFOs. I have seen and believe in UFOs. And I thought I was going to lose my career and get kicked out of Hollywood and never have a job again. But
It's so funny because this is kind of like the new paradigm of coming out of the closet.
Yeah.
It used to be literally like if you were a gay person,
right?
It's the same paradigm. You're afraid to lose your career. All of those things. It's so funny.
All there.
Energies just reinvent themselves in new scenarios, don't they?
They do. So I put that out, and I was thinking, that's it. I'm never going to work again. But this topic is too important to ignore and needs to be expressed and talked about. And to my amaze, nobody ridiculed me. Nobody really asked me anything about it either. Nobody really cared, which was sort of disheartening. But but at the same time, I wasn't shunned and shamed into oblivion, and I still had a career for a few more years until just recently, when I fully have disengaged from that world, and I don't think I'm ever going to go back.
How's that feel?
It feels good. It feels that, over the summer it was a little rough because coming to terms to that idea, I'd already kind of been transitioning out of that world anyways. But then sort of establishing who I am in a sense, you have to program your identity in a sense, because I know your audience and the interview with Ed audience, it's quite big and it's getting bigger and people say a lot of things, but most of my stardom or fame comes from my work in the video games and in shows like Avatar, and I get invited to conventions and sign the autographs and do all that stuff. And it's a completely separate world. So I have this world of the video game folks, and then I have this world of the UFO folks, and they've been kind of like, and now I'm switching over to the now 100% going into the consciousness field and devoting all my attention into that world and saying goodbye to the acting and stunt world.
Well, being a figure, being a pillar, being a leader, being famous, influence and notoriety, I don't mean that in any bad way, I mean visibility, I'll say, is an energetic frequency. And if that's part of your frequency, it's going to eventually show up in anything that you do.
Sure.
I would say that you're famous in this metaphysical woo-woo world, my friend.
What's that?
I would say that you're famous, very famous in this metaphysical woo-woo world.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and for me, it's as long as I'm having fun, and as long as I'm doing what I want to do, and for a long time, even after my focus became the consciousness stuff, it's still fun to go test your physical skills and do a stunt or do some acting work and whatnot. But it's gotten to the point right now where the reason I had to say goodbye was the propaganda in Hollywood is so obvious. And so, at least for the types of things that I would get called for, I know there's still some good, awakening, good projects out there, but the commercial stuff is just, to me, it's just so obviously pushed in a specific direction to get people to think and act and believe a certain way. And I couldn't consciously be a part of that anymore, even though it was fun to go hang out with the guys and shoot the shit behind the scenes and, like whatever and all that fun stuff. But now I'm just like, I can't, I just feel yucky, like going in there. I'm like, I can't put on this fake, hey guys, this is so great, we're here. And it's like, you read the script, you're like, this is shit. Yeah. I can't do this. I can't put my name on this.
Well, you illuminated something really important, and that is the awareness that Hollywood is not just entertainment. Hollywood is a paradigm, is a construct that controls and manipulates society based on what they inject into our imagination. And there's a high level of responsibility around once we truly recognize the power of storytelling and that storytellers hold. I believe the same thing about entrepreneurs. I feel entrepreneurs and storytellers are the shapeshifters of society. They create, they shape the paradigm. Mm-hmm. The storytellers, based on what I just shared with you, how they lead thought and how they lead imagination and how they block and create barriers around what we perceive. And entrepreneurs, because we create products, services, and opportunities for society. And when we are conscious entrepreneurs, we're creating an opportunity for an expansion in this area. Right. So when we know and understand that there's a lot of power and ripple effects that come from choosing a career, a role, an avatar, a role, because we're all just playing roles here. But if your soul has chosen a role where you feel connected to storytelling, whether it's on a big scale like Hollywood and being a documentary filmmaker, or whether you tell stories to your grandchildren or you create stuff on your iPhone, this is powerful. I want everyone to really feel the truth of who you are here. And those of us who innovate and envision society, whether you are actually standing in that role of being an entrepreneur, or you're experiencing it as you tinker in your house with whatever it is that you create, you're doing really, really powerful work for the planet. And I understand that as our consciousness grows and expands, and we take responsibility for what it is that we're here to do and share, things that are no longer in vibrational alignment, we have to move away from them. Or they become very self-destructive. And you're telling this tale, what feels like from, I know, the outside perspective, like it's epic Hollywood land and leaving Hollywood. But this is just this is our real life. This is this is just how it played out in our real life. Everybody else, how many of you out there have a real life where you have a job or an old expression of yourself where you are reinventing, you are reincarnating, you're jumping into a new timeline in this life? In essence, we're living a lot of lifetimes in this one lifetime. Right now we're having a major convergence. But I invite you all to see yourselves in these stories that we're sharing.
Yeah, that's the thing, is everybody is, in all aspects, we maybe because we have the Hollywood reality, which is, projected out there to the masses as this glamorous lifestyle or whatever, working in the movies and these actors that you see on TV and stuff. So we're working with those people. So it seems a little bit more grandiose, if that's even a word, but but on every level that people, at their day jobs, in their offices, in their at the construction sites or wherever, this shift is happening throughout the entire planet right now, and everybody is choosing. I mean, this is why we have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people taking the streets every weekend to protest these lifestyles that are being pushed on us, to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to live a life of sovereignty and freedom. And I don't want a part of a system that's going to try to manipulate and control me and make me take something that without my free will, and and force me to work in an environment that I don't want to work. So it's everybody's reevaluating their position in life in this past couple of months, really, and where we're going, right? A big topic this month is mandates, right? And supposedly starting yesterday or starting Monday is about small businesses having to enforce mandates because our overlords, governments say that that's what they're supposed to do, and at the same time people are saying that doesn't feel right, something's off with that, and if I have to do that for my job, maybe I should be finding a new job, maybe I should be looking into a place that and I can express myself and not have to be submissive in order to get a paycheck and this whole thing. So we're reevaluating the entire structure of society right now. Yeah. And it's awesome.
It is awesome. Okay. And I want to plug the show really fast, everybody. I'm going to go back and right after I plug season 3 of Interview with Ed, you've got about half of the season released so far. It's on your Vimeo channel, correct?
Yeah. Yes, season 3 is only on Vimeo, not on Gaia yet. We're seeing where that all goes, but I think
I encourage everybody, go to Ruben's Vimeo channel, get the subscription to his channel, support Ruben and his filmmaking and how he gets to show up here on the planet, because as you can see, he's an absolutely awesome individual. I talked that and kind of hinted that I wanted to circle back to sovereignty. And I know we've been here for a while and I want to respect your time, and you've got massive amount of amazing humanness to show up to, which probably looks like editing later on for you.
Yes.
I want to be respectful of your time. But this idea of sovereignty, I want to ask you, what's the one problem that if it were solved, Ruben, would return our sovereignty?
One problem that would be solved. That would
if it were solved, it would return our sovereignty.
I think sovereignty is just a choice from my perspective. So over the last full moon, I had a visitation from Odin. And what he told me was Odin / Merlin. I didn't even know anything about Odin, but I got this image that Merlin, they were connected somehow, and I looked it up, and apparently there is some sort of overlap in the archetypes. So what he told me was sovereignty is it's a choice. It's an energetic, it's even if you have a foreign substance in your body that is trying to overtake your personal sovereignty, you energetically can take that back through your own will and vibration and frequency. It's an energy of and why I say choice is because we all have in small areas in our lives, whether we believe it or not, we've been trained to believe that we have to rely on different aspects of our society and that we're dependent on these things. But when you truly think about it, no, you're not dependent on anything except for you and your being and your body, your mind, and your spirit. You have full control over that. Nobody else has control over that. And we so easily give up this control through ideas, through thinking, through overthinking. Like, oh, if I don't do this, if I don't If I don't take the jab, I'm not going to be able to go to work at my office. Okay, well, maybe you shouldn't go to work. I'm just saying, because we've been trained and told that we have to conform to a specific idea in order to get something else. And that's why all this is collapsing right now. This whole paradigm of the illusion is falling apart, is because many of us are realizing. Look at the positive side of COVID for a second. We all were going to our jobs 9 to 5, getting in the rat race, traffic, the whole 9 yards. And then it all stopped. And what did we do? We figured it out. We're working from home. We're doing our things remotely. We're not doing the 9 to 5 thing anymore. And society still functions. We're still doing it. How is that possible? And we didn't even imagine it would be possible until we're actually now doing it. So that's the positive side. And if we can stay with that idea that don't be so hyper-focused on it has to be this way. We can conform and find out other ways. And that's the same thing. As long as you stay in that frequency of my mind, my body, my spirit, my choice, and I can do whatever I want with that. I can't tell anybody else what they can do. That's not my job. I have to honor their sovereignty and honor their choices, whatever they choose to do. But what I have control over is my self, my being, and my choices. So I don't know if I'm answering the question, but I think it's just comes down to a choice and a frequency and an energy of just beingness, just being, and state that to the world. I am my own sovereign being. Nothing
sovereign being.
Yeah. And nothing else can influence my choices, my body, my soul, my mind. Actually, I just, a friend of mine put out a New Year's tweet.
Cool. I have a quote that I channeled too, something about this. Pardon me while I look it up. Look up your thing too.
Yeah, so this is my good buddy Bradley just tweeted this out. He said, note to 2022, no corrupt government, paid off politician, billionaire, drug dealer, corporate owned media, bot scientist, or fear-mongering group is going to control me. I am a sovereign being. I have a mind, I use it. I have a heart, I live by it. I have a soul, I manifest it.
Ooh, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can find mine quickly. I usually can't find anything quickly when I want to and I'm live on the air, so I'll probably stop. Plus, that was really good. That's going to be tough to follow up. But you did answer the question. I can distill some pieces and reflect back what I pulled from that. The question that I asked Ruben was, what's the one problem that if it was solved would give us back our sovereignty? And the most important pieces that I heard were that sovereignty is a choice. And the problem, this is the problem that we get to solve. It's a simple problem, everybody. The problem I heard Ruben say is overthinking. And when we overthink, we become susceptible to distortion, and that's when the whole thing falls out of frequency. The whole thing stops working. You lose your freedom, right? Because you're slave to the mind at that point.
Let me tell you about being a stuntman. So the one thing, the biggest thing I learned by being a stuntman is if you think, you die.
Oh my God.
Seriously. And so of course there's calculations and things you have to do prior to and training and all this stuff that you try to do. But in the moment, you just have to execute.
That's why he was able to get you out of that terrible story that you told last night on Jimmy Church, where you guys escaped the bullets. Like this wasn't a stunt. I mean, you had to you learned to do this in Stuntville, Hollywood land. But Ruben, this paid dividends for you in your real life too, in many times, many circumstances.
It did. And in the moment, there was a million, my mind was running 1,000,000 miles an hour trying to figure out what the hell is going on here. But when I saw the guy running up to the car with the gun, and then as he's pulling the gun and he's putting it right up to the window and aiming at me, I just instinctively screamed to Steve, go, 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 and drive as fast as he can. And as Steve is pulling away, going against traffic, coming right straight at us, then the guy just unloads the clip into the car. And, bullets are flying in and plastic pieces, windows are busting, the whole thing. But if we had taken time to think about it, I would have had a ton of bullet. It definitely would have been shot all on me in the passenger seat. Instead, it went in the back passenger seat through, and then one of the bullets hit the back of my seat and tapped me in the back. But again, yes. So one of the things, I did this one. I learned early on because I did overthink in the stunts, and that's when you get hurt always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you rehearse and you do things in a safe way, and you have safety equipment and everything like that. But when you try to overthink things, you end up because it takes time, and you don't, in those split second situations, right, you don't have time to think about it. So you have to just surrender and and trust that you've rehearsed it enough times that you're just going to do it right. And this goes for acting as well, but
it goes for the Akashic Records as well.
And the Akashic Records. So these are all just lessons we learn in life. But there was this one moment where I had to jump off the Long Beach Bridge. And,
I knew you were going to tell this story next. This one's also hard for me because.
Oh, did I tell this to you already? Did I already tell you this story?
I've heard. I heard the first time I heard this story was when we were hanging out together in Sedona, and I'm just. I just love you so much. I don't like you in danger. You can tell the audience. It's okay.
I'm probably going to tell a different part of the story because.
Oh no! Okay.
Well, no, because that part is I forget which part I told you. Anyways, basically, we're on wires for we're doing this. There's it's for CSI, I think CSI Miami or something, and we're jumping off the bridge, and the character that I'm doubling is I think it's like a suicide or something like that. So him and his lover, they jump off the bridge and they suicide themselves as cops are trying to get him. So I'm the stunt double for this actor, and there's a stunt actress or stunt woman who was doubling the actress, and we had to hold hands and jump off together. And we rehearsed this several times with a wire on us because they had to get several shots of us running, jumping off, and then we'd only go halfway down or not even halfway down, and then they would pull us back up, and then we reset, do it again. So we did that several times. They got all the shots, and then like, okay, the last shot, we're gonna go, and then we're going to quick release you, so then you actually fall all the way to the bottom into the water. And I had, you had the stunt harness on and stuff. So I could tell my stunt partner, the woman was very scared. And I had, by this time I'm a seasoned stunt man. I've done this so many times. So I'm like, I told her, I said, look, don't worry. Just whatever you do, just commit. Don't hesitate. You got this. And she's like, okay. I'm like, we've rehearsed this. We're going to be fine. And I had to remind her and we have a little apple box that we can step off of. And then we jump over the rails and we go. And as they're counting down, ready for action, 3, 2, 1. And I'm starting to go. And then I feel the hesitancy in her body, in her arm. And I'm like, oh, we've only got one shot at this. Oh, no, hell no. I yank her. I'm like, we're not going to not do this. So I literally yanked her over the railing. She ended up clipping her knee and busting on the thing. But if we would have hesitated, then that's when you trip up and wires. We're dealing. There's so many factors involved with wires, obviously the cameras and everything else. But we have to commit and clear the thing. Otherwise we would swing in, and there's so many things that could have gone wrong. So I gave her a little bit of my confidence of like, commit and don't think about this. But later she thanked me. She was like, thank you for actually pulling me through, because that hesitancy um, could have screwed everybody up, including me and everything. Like if I wouldn't have, like, I overcompensated and pulled her through, and we jumped and we did the whole thing, and I almost drowned and died, but that's another story. But we did it, we did it, and we got the shot, and we only had to do it once. So that's the thing is to, when you're ready to commit, just commit and trust that the universe has got your back. And that's it. And I think that's part of the sovereignty, and the choice is just trust your choices. And even if they're wrong, if they turn out to be wrong later, that's okay. Then you admit you made a mistake and you try again. But when there's that thinking and that hesitancy and all this stuff, then you're for sure going to make a mistake. You're for sure just going to fail.
Yeah. And you're going to learn as you fail.
Yeah.
I think that taking healthy risks is really important. I would love to invite every person who's here right now to think, where's an area where your intuition is telling you to do something, and challenge you to make a commitment to that. Take an action on what it is that you've been inspired to do today, because there's so much goodness in all of these stories. There's actually activation for us if we'll see it from this perspective and see that, I have an invitation in this moment to do what Ruben said and to commit to something. I just think it makes our time that much more powerful when we
you can live many more lifetimes in one lifetime when you start committing to things.
But I think it's important to put yourself in a frequency where the people around you are taking healthy risks. And one characteristic, or I should say one benefit, I think this came from a Harvard University study of psychology and study of a group mentality. But if you are in a group where you feel safe and you feel seen and you feel creative, the inclination to take healthy risks is a lot easier. And you're going to take smarter, healthy risks. And trusting yourself is a big part of this. I wrestled a lot with trusting myself to make really good decisions. If any of you, and it's imperative that you get good at that. So if any of you do, if you feel like you have trust issues with yourself, how do you know? Well, if you don't know if you have them with yourself, if you have them with anybody else in the world, then you have them with yourself, because it's all a reflection. If you have them with money, then you have trust issues. If you don't fully trust money, your relationship with money. So yeah, if anybody has trust issues that you feel like you need to work through, feel free to send me a message and we can put something together for you. But I love that we've also brought the awareness back to the importance of doing the work in the hologram and making the choices in these moments, making the choice to be sovereign, making choices to take healthy risks in the direction of our curiosity and our creativity and our intuition. I feel like that's really a mic drop for me when it comes to that. Ruben, what are your last words that you want to talk about when it comes to
let me just add to the sovereignty idea, because a lot of people, this could get, because I juggle with this too. Sovereignty in your choices doesn't mean you have to do it alone. In fact, you can't do it alone. So one of the big lessons I think we're going to learn in 2022 that we're going to be forced to do is to find our tribe. And I suggest everybody locally as much as possible. Obviously, we have our friends throughout the world, Emily and everywhere else. We're all spread out here. But to try to find a local tribe as much as you can that also has the same mindset in living in sovereignty and protecting your sovereignty. There's a great group called the Freedom Cell Network. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No, I'm not.
I think Zach, what's his name? Something Bush, guys. Zach Bush, not Zach Bush, but look up Freedom Cell Network. You can find out you're in your local area who's part of the Freedom Cells. And a lot of what they're teaching is about self-sufficiency, being using technology, because we have, unlike, this is not about, even though I live in the mountains and stuff, this is not about going and having a rough life, so to say. You don't have to go and rough it. But having people around you who also honor sovereignty and respect that, similar ways of thinking, and they don't have to be of even the same religion or same exact frequency and vibration, as long as they're into this idea of like in my community, I'm connected with a lot of people, and we're growing our own food. We're figuring out bartering situations, trading, and
learn to live off the grid, and you don't have to go to your stinky 9-to-5 job that you don't want to go to, that makes you feel imprisoned anyway.
Right.
It's like there are a couple ways out. You can either be an entrepreneur and you can make up your own job, or you can live off the grid, or you can do both. And we're discovering new ways that we no longer must be imprisoned by this system. That it's undermining and repressing all of us.
Well, it creates fear, and it creates fear in thinking that if you're not part of the system, then how are you going to survive and thrive? Mm-hmm. And it's actually the opposite. Once we disengage from the system, we find out we have so many more options and that are made available to us.
Yeah.
So as long as we connect with our communities and things like this and find like-minded people. So this is why I think what the 2022 is about, more disconnecting from the system, that paradigm that's been projected on us, and finding these alternatives, cryptocurrencies, different ways of growing your own food, bartering, energy independence is a big one too. Not everybody can afford solar just yet, but there's just the idea of, okay, how do I get my water? Maybe I could buy some rain barrels and collect my water off of my roof. And these are all things, not preparing for an apocalypse or the end of the world. I don't think we're going to have that. But by doing these little things in your life, growing, even if not your own, everything you eat, but just having a few trees or growing some food in your window, having growth, and all of these little things, these action points that you do in your life actually support this idea of sovereignty, that if the whole thing goes to hell in the handbasket tomorrow, I'm okay. I've got my neighbors, I got my, we're all good. We don't, if the grocery stores stop selling toilet paper, well, that's going to suck. But, I've got a bidet. So
perfect.
There you go. So it's about, I guess I offer these little things to support the energy of sovereignty. And of course, you don't have to do any or all of them or just one of them, whatever. It's just whatever you feel comfortable. You just get the bidet. That's a necessity for sure. Yes.
Well, I love that you talk about these things, and you talk about it's all the little things that add up. And something else that I wrote down that you triggered and pinged up for me earlier that you picked up during your time of martial arts is the importance of repetition. And one thing that I teach my Akashic alchemist clients who are purposefully creating with their skills of alchemy, Merlin, Melchizedek, this energy of the purposeful creation and what we get to do. We talk about how it's the repetition, it's the adding up of all of the little things, of all of the moments. And when you break it down like that, it's not hard to find your sovereignty in moments when you get to take your sovereignty back. It is important that you find tribe. One of the reasons that I'm so inspired to create retreats and these training experiences in the vortexes because I recognize that there are masters who are coming back and have agreed to forget and then remember, to assist with the transformation and the evolution on the planet right now. And we need training facilities. We need tribe where we're coming together, where the human who is experiencing that remembering and waking up, that's a unique process in and of itself. And then figuring out what your genius is and what the fuck you show up to do with it. It's a unique journey. And if you're finding it difficult to find your tribe, this is why we're creating these experiences. Ruben will actually be on location with his crew in the next Vortex experience, ARI, Akashic Records Immersion Sedona, as will Bill and the Skull. Incredible transformation that happens at these events. So if you want more information about that, reach out to me. Make sure you go to Ruben's Vimeo channel and become a subscriber.
Interviewwithed.org. That'll take you to all the seasons, and also you can sign up for the newsletter and get, monthly updates on new episodes and stuff.
Yes, it's so fun to be on your fan list, Ruben. So I invite everybody, sign up and make sure that you follow along. Chastity says, best show ever. How's
Yay!
that? Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you got more editing to do tonight, or what's live in the field?
Yeah. I should get back into that.
Back.
Next episode's super cool. It's actually I boosted your episode up a month because I was doing a lot of greenhouse work and I didn't have time to do this next episode. But remember when we did our episode, we had just came from Idaho, Des Moines, Idaho, and we were, or Idaho, yeah. I guess somewhere over there. And we had done a regression session with Bill, with Suzanne, summer. And anyway, so we're going into Dolores Cannon's work, QHHT, and all that stuff. So that's the next episode will be coming. It'll be a two episoder.
So excited. Everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. Ruben, thank you for being here with us. Thank you for inspiring me personally. Thank you for giving me a platform and seeing power in what I'm doing and sharing the Akashic Records and allowing me to share with your audience. And I can't wait for more. All right.
More to come.
More to come. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye-bye.